A Sunshine Coast resident for over 20 years, John Henderson first served as Sechelt's mayor from 2011 to 2014. Between 2018 and 2022, John was the chair of the Sechelt District Chamber of Commerce. A chartered professional accountant by trade, John has also been a director for a number of non-profits and is the co-founder of the Sunshine Coast Electric Vehicle Association. In 2022, John was re-elected as Mayor of Sechelt and currently also serves as one of Sechelt's representatives on the Sunshine Coast Regional District Board of Directors. Mayor Henderson, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Tony.
It's a pleasure to have you. All right, so you were previously the Mayor of Sechelt from 2011 to 2014. What is it that compelled you to run again?
Well, I got approached last year. I had no intention of running, but I was approached because a number of people felt that we needed to get some more things done. And so in 2012, 13, 14, we were successful in building the Sechelt Water Resource Center, which was our wastewater treatment plant right downtown. Mm-hmm. It seems strange to think of a facility like that, but it was downtown in the past, and it smelled terribly. It made noise for the residents nearby. And in 3 years, we got it built, we got it funded, and we got it operating. And it's still one of the best in Canada. And we won 7 national awards. So I'm intrigued by the opportunity to do that again for some of our other challenges. And that's, I think, why people really wanted me to come back.
And what would you say are the main issues your challenges that you want to address in this new term?
Well, no surprise, everybody's talking about water. Everybody is talking about housing, community safety. So all of those are kind of the high-level things. I also think there's an opportunity to bring back community. COVID changed the way we tended to interact with people, and I'm really excited about some initiatives we're starting to work on that will bring back a sense of both the community and a sense of fun for all of us.
Yeah, like gathering, having people
yes,
out there. And
gatherings, awards, recognition of people for what they've done, and just generally, again, getting back to having a better kind of experience. We're so lucky. This part of the world is the best place in the world. Mm-hmm. And I want to see us make sure we enjoy it ourselves. Lots of tourists come and enjoy it and tell us how wonderful it is, mm-hmm. which is rather weird because we don't necessarily realize how lucky we are to be here.
It's good to be reminded of how lucky we are. One of the main issues that you were campaigning on last year was the water shortage in Sechelt. Yep. How are things going with that? Is there any kind of progress on that front?
Yep. There is. I mean, the water issue affects everywhere on the coast. North Pender, South Pender have their own water supply, but even they go to water restrictions occasionally. Gibsons, the town of Gibsons, has their own water. Lucky them. Mm-hmm. And lucky us because they've been helping by providing water to the rest of the communities. So everybody from Langdale to Half Moon Bay, Madeira Park, they need water. Mm-hmm. So when I ran, it was in part because I recognized we had 2 parts to the solution. One, we need water now, and then just to get us through the next 2 or 3 years. And then we need the long-term solution. I mean, it's kind of weird that we live in a rainforest. Mm-hmm. We have water all over the place. We have flooding. We have wells everywhere. And we don't have enough water when we need it in the summer and in the fall. And so really the focus is on two things. The short term, take water from where we can get it, make sure it's safe, and avoid water restrictions like we have had, and avoid the very real possibility that we could run out of water. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty serious thing to have to talk about. Yeah. In the long term, over the next 2 or 3 years, I'm committed to then also solving the long term because we've got huge lakes. We could build reservoirs. There's a number of things that would provide the water that we need forever. But first, we got to help find water for this summer and next summer and probably the summer after that.
Yeah, well, that's a good segue into kind of the next question because there is a housing shortage and on the coast, and I'm sure there are challenges in addition to resources for new residents, that kind of thing, or new homes being built. How is it? trying to bring new inventory online? Like, is it there a lot of red tape? I think the province is kind of behind it, but are there any available grants or anything for that infrastructure to be able to make new water sources for the new housing that the province wants online?
Yes, there's sort of two questions in that, but the first is, yes, there's funding for water. We, through the Sunshine Coast Regional District, just announced the $6 million grant to help us finish the water meter installations, which are in the Sechelt area generally. That's important because it helps ensure we're not having leaks in your home pipes, the pipe from the road to your homes. That, in some jurisdictions, has resulted in a savings of up to 30% of the water. So, think about a hose leaking all night. That's a lot of water. Mm-hmm. And if it's underground, you might not know about it. So meters will help that. The funding for that is important because the bids that we got to install the meters are quite a bit higher than we expected. So the combination, that's a good news story to be able to get those meters installed in the next couple of years. One of the big things about housing, and I want to make sure your listeners understand, and we need more housing. The issue of housing prices, the issue of availability, all depends on supply. And this community, we don't have enough of most anything when it comes to staff. We don't have enough doctors and nurses and care aides and waiters and waitresses and trades. And, we're short on a whole lot of things. So to me, as common sense, we have to grow, and we have to grow to make sure we bring in those kinds of people. Mm-hmm. For that to happen, we have to have the right type of housing that is affordable. For that to happen, we have to have land on which to build the houses. And for that to happen, we have to have water so that it all makes sense. So it's a circular situation that we're in, which is achievable. Mm-hmm. We just have to get on with it. And water, knowing that there's a plan for water is important, I'm sure, to your clients and developers in general, mm-hmm. that, if we at the District of Sechelt were to approve a building permit today, those homes aren't going to be built for at least a year and probably 2 to 3 years. Mm-hmm. So we need to, in the meantime, while we can issue a permit today, it's not going to be using water today. Mm-hmm. So we've got to just get the water, secure the water supply now, and get that developed while you and your clients are building houses. Yeah,
and I guess it's a bit of a balancing act between balance the needs of a developer and the environment and water supply and that kind of thing, and yes. And then what's needed as far as housing for, like you said, all the workers that are coming here that we're seeing a shortage of now, kind of thing. So,
well, I think the important thing on that too is to be creative in the types of housing. Mm-hmm. The idea of building 4-bedroom single-family homes those days are done. Mm-hmm. There's always going to be a market for a few of those, mm-hmm. but really we need smaller homes, we need condominiums, we need density. Yeah. These are things that add to the affordability and I suggest the livability of a community. Mm-hmm. If you're all spread out over miles and miles, it's not the same as being in a cluster that people can become real neighbours with each other.
Well, and Premier David Eby recently announced that the provincial government's going to introduce some legislation that allow up to 4 homes on a traditional single-family lot. So it sounds like you're kind of on board with that. But again, you've got to balance the needs of the community for water and housing and all that kind of stuff.
Well, and if I may, that's a kind of a one-size-fits-all approach from the province.
Yep.
I support the underlying principles of it, that we have to do things differently. We have to be faster at the municipal level, but then we also have to be faster at the provincial level. This is not all on the municipalities.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The province has some work to do, even on the Church Road well, which is a really important source of water for this summer. We've been waiting over 2 years for the province to approve the water license.
Oh, wow.
So without that, technically we can't turn
bureaucracy? Is that different?
It is a whole mix of things. I think naturally there's a concern about the impact of taking water from that source against the other nearby sources of water. There's technical testing, there's quality testing. There's a lot of things to be done, but at the end of the day, what comes first is we need that water. And so, but back to Premier Eby's advice or encouragement to do fourplexes, I think really when you get into the details, fourplexes may work in Burnaby or in New Westminster. Here it might be something different, but it has to be tied into our infrastructure. I dare say to put a fourplex in a neighborhood that is designed for single-family homes would involve a whole lot of infrastructure upgrades that might make it unaffordable.
I did I don't know if you caught my recent April Fool's gag, but it was a little bit tempered down from normal. But the one we did the previous year was talking about the Sechelt's landfill coming to capacity. I think it's the end of 2025.
Yes.
How's things going securing a new location for a landfill site?
It's first of all, it's a responsibility for the Sunshine Coast Regional District. They handle landfill. And so I know there's been a lot of work. The former board worked hard on it. I think we're going to have some news in the next 6 to 8 months. So things are on track. It's another thing, though. What it really points to is how important it is that we do be responsible as individuals. So, one of the things that I'm always amazed at is why people don't have kitchen compactors for their organics. That you have these little units that sit on your counter, and we've never used our organics collection at home. Because it dries it, essentially composts it.
Straight in the garden?
And then it can go in the garden.
Oh, beautiful.
So, there's ways that we can reduce our impact on the landfill, which even with a new site is important.
And this is Mayor Henderson, one of the first owners of a Tesla in North America. So if you follow his lead on the desktop trash, the compost compactors, you never know, they might be worth $1 million in a few years. All right, switching gears a little bit just to short-term rentals and tourists. So we are heading into tourist season. Short-term rentals have been a contentious issue up and down the coast. What kind of feedback are you getting regarding the district Sechelt's short-term rental policy?
This is a real perplexing, complex issue. We have a number of people that depend on short-term rentals. It's funny, just on the way coming here, I met one of the original developers of the Coast Gravity Park.
Oh, okay.
And they rely on short-term rentals. That the people that come up to ride on the trails, and the Coast Gravity Park is a world-class attraction. It brings hundreds and hundreds of people here every month. These are they're obviously capable of riding bicycles down crazy hills. They don't have places to stay without short-term rentals. So that's an example where the STRs are really important to that segment of our economy, and I don't just mean the tourists. I mean the people that are working in it and the kids typically that ride who are from here. So on that side, it's important that we sustain them. On the other side, I really respect people where they run into neighbors where the short-term rentals are a problem. I understand if you've got a neighborhood that's been hollowed out by having too many short-term rentals. And that's, so that's why I say it's been a complex problem, Tony. We're in Sechelt, we're trying something this year. We've got different definitions, somewhat similar to other jurisdictions. If you live on the property, you can have a short-term rental. If you don't live on the property, we're limiting those and putting through a fairly rigorous assessment in place. What I hope ultimately is that people will realize that these are important things to have, but they also have to be professionally managed, and we have to enforce our bylaws to make sure that the fit is right, to make sure that the community benefits, and to make sure that the tourists have a place to stay until you build us a hotel.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I'm not sure that'll be me personally, but point taken. A natural question for us would be in just with me being a real estate agent and you being the mayor of Sechelt would be to ask you about that Seawatch development situation. But I understand that that's before the courts right now, and we can't really comment on that. So we're gonna jump over that one.
Well, I will just add it's something that's there's no winners in that. When I was mayor the first time, I guess when the first sinkhole appeared, I got a call, and Mr. Mayor, can you come over? We got a sinkhole. I have to admit, I didn't really know what that meant. Well, I've certainly learned in my first term, from the legal process that has evolved, that's been a very difficult thing for everybody. Mm-hmm. And so I just would want to say that there's absolutely no winners in this, and my heart goes out to the residents and the hardworking staff of the district who put a huge amount of time into this. But yes, we're hopeful that things will be resolved in some way, shape, or form in the coming months.
A constant complaint of the Sunshine Coast right now, and it's not your jurisdiction, I understand that, but BC Ferries. But you've been a long-time resident, so I was just wondering if you had an opinion on what we would need to do to fix a ferry service that gets busier and busier each passing summer.
I do. 2 ferries.
Yep.
Ferries. If we had the foresight to build 2 ferries, and I say we because it does take the community to say we'll pay for it, mm-hmm. because somehow we pay for it, whether it's from taxes, rider fees, or if you don't,
a wasted time if you don't do it. It's your time, right?
And there's a cost if you absolutely. Yeah. So, but I mean the ferries would have cost about $150 million if we built them 3 or 4 years ago. Today, I'm told they're $225 million each.
Oh, well.
So it
would have been 150 for 2?
No, 150
okay.
each, and that's now 225 each. So for $300 million, we could have had 2 ferries. That's the start of a successful solution. Then we need staff, and of course we need infrastructure with the ferry terminal in Langdale especially, and then we probably need a highway, because we do need to take vehicles off that goat trail, as former chair of the regional district coined it, that we call a highway. Mm-hmm. So there's some overall infrastructure improvements that need to be done. We have to decide if that's what this community wants, because if we do, we have to be ready to pay for it. Mm-hmm. And we can, but we can do it all. It's entirely achievable.
I believe there are some upgrades happening to the Langdale ferry terminal now. Do you have any info on that? Was there input taken from your?
There's some in the works, but my understanding, for example, the next ferry that will come to this route will be in 2029.
Oh.
Well, the Queen of Surrey is about 48 years old now.
Yeah, she's showing her age a bit.
And she had a midlife upgrade 20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And that's meant to help her last for another
now.
2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Well, 2029 is more than 2 or 3 years away.
Yeah.
So my concern is we really have to push this, and we as the community have to push. That's why I keep coming back to it. If we went to the province, if we went to BC Ferries and said, we're willing to pay something towards the costs, then we could have that. Mm-hmm. And we need to push for it, because 2029 is not a comfortable feeling for the first one. Mm-hmm. On the Langdale terminal you asked about, there's some modest upgrades that are being planned, but the big thing we need is, right now, as you know, the one side you can load the upper deck.
Yeah.
On the other side you cannot. And we really do need a ramp on the second one. And the fact that we haven't got that is unfortunate, because that was in the works in 2017, I believe, and it got tabled for reasons that I'm not sure of. But be that as it may, we got to look ahead. There's no real benefit in saying, "Oh, we should have done this." We just learn from that and say, "Let's stop waiting. Let's get on and get some of these things done."
You're famous for the orange Roadster Tesla that you had. That was, you were an earlier adopter for that. So, when did you first get a Tesla?
I took delivery on May 13th of 2010.
2010.
So in next month, it'll be the 13th birthday of the car. It was number 922 of all Teslas ever made.
Right on.
So I'm very proud of that. It was, at the time, I was considered pretty crazy by most people. You know, what are you going to do? Where are you going to charge it? You know, what do you do when you run out of battery power? And here we are 13 years later, and people are pretty impressed when they...
You're a visionary, yeah.
I don't wear that comfortably, but I hope that people see the benefit of taking some risks, being willing to try some new things. It's been a great ride, literally.
Yeah.
It's been a great ride figuratively, because I watch people going from being harsh critics, and I'd never do one, to some of my best friends. I drive trucks. I'm never going to drive a EV. And now most of them are driving EVs.
All members of your electric vehicle association there.
Yes, well, and that's we're really proud of that we've got over 400 members, and the Sunshine Coast has among the highest adoption rates of electric vehicles in North America.
Like per capita kind of thing.
Yes, yeah.
That's awesome.
So, and you see it every day. So when I used to exclaim when we'd see one Tesla.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh, there's the Tesla. Oh, there's one.
Tesla.
There's one.
Yeah.
And now there's Kona, Hyundais and Kias, and they're all over, and Nissans.
All
and
electric,
stuff.
yeah.
So it's been great, and it's been great to be part of the rollout of the EV. I've been fortunate with Tesla in the early days, being one of few. I got invited to everything.
So you've been down to some of the launches and stuff?
Yes, yeah. I went to Fremont, I guess 3 times for the launch of the Model S, which was the first sedan. Then the launch of the Model X, which is the one with the falcon wing doors.
Oh, wow.
And then the Model 3. And so, yeah, I've been very fortunate. I met Elon in the launch of the Model S, because, as I said, there were just very, very few people, 300 or 400 people in the crowd in those days.
Cool.
And everybody was rushing over to look at the car. And I thought, well, I can look at the car later, but maybe I'll go and shake this man's
Meet
hand.
this fella, yeah.
And, so it's been a treat to be part of that growth and that development.
Well, that's great. Well, I think we've got the highest capita of electric vehicles in North America, and probably the highest capita of people that own trucks other than Alberta. But speaking of that, the Cybertruck's coming out. Have you pre-ordered that? And,
yes. Yes. Yeah.
So you're going to use that to convert the other half of the coast that drives the trucks?
I think it'll be a fascinating, again, another paradigm shift. When it was first announced, most people looked at it and went, this is ugly, and it's why would I want something like that? Mm-hmm. But now with all the development that's gone on, it's, the self-driving capability, I'm told it's indestructible, which is rather amusing for those who saw the launch.
Yeah, the one that you weren't at. Yeah.
Well, in the launch where the designer said, and the windows are indestructible, and
bulletproof, yeah.
Threw a ball at it, or a metal ball, and broke it.
Yeah, Elon wasn't too happy. He probably wouldn't have met you after that one. Yeah.
No, but it's just another thing that it pushes the boundaries, and from that we all learn some things.
Speaking of looking ahead, your aspirations for Sechelt, where do you see Sechelt in, say, 2030?
I see Sechelt, we must grow. I think that we need to be inclusive. We talk about Sechelt, but really Sechelt embraces, we are the center of a number of the communities, from Half Moon Bay to our Sechelt friends and neighbors to Roberts Creek. We need to grow to have the services. The hospital probably needs to grow. We need a lot more amenities. We do need a hotel, and we probably need things like marinas. And somebody the other day said we definitely need a bowling alley.
Bowling alley, yeah, we had one of them when I moved here. That's part of the reason I came.
So, I look at Sechelt in 30 years as being, it'll be bigger, it'll be inclusive, it will be integrated, as I said, with the rest of the surrounding neighborhoods. And I really want to see us being known as a place that is inspiring.
Yeah.
So integrated, inclusive, and inspiring.
Well, I find you inspiring, Mr. Mayor. I think anyone that's spent any time on the Sunshine Coast knows you're a huge supporter, not only of Sechelt, but the entire region. And one might argue you're a glutton for punishment because, it's impressive, I think, just one time someone running for public office like that and being mayor, but then to come back again and do it twice speaks, I think, for your love of the Sunshine Coast. And I just want to say thank you very much for being on the podcast. And, good luck with the rest of your term.
Thank you, Tony, and to you too. Thanks.
Thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. While you're here, maybe you want to check out one of my listings or watch my video about why you should choose me to sell your home.